Good Friday morning, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We got a lot to go over today. This winter weather storm that we have been talking about for many days now, is actually starting to unfold in some of these areas. And so we're going to go over the latest and greatest from all of our model guidance today, as well as some graphics to show you what you can expect in your own backyard. But yeah, we got a lot to go over, so like this video if you like it, subscribe if you have not done so already, and please leave a comment where you're watching from. So we're going to get right into it here. This is the latest. I'm going to go ahead and reload this because these warnings can get issued pretty quick. So this is the latest from the National Weather Service when it comes to our warnings. So in this kind of blue you see across a lot of areas, those are winter storm watches, right? This purple and this purple, these are ice storm warnings. You may remember in yesterday evening's video we mentioned that these would be expanded over here, and they were a little bit. I think they might be a little bit further down, so it looks more like that. It's possible, but they've got it down pretty good, and I think this area over here will expand and look something like that or larger. And then in this pink color you see very prominently on your screen, these are winter storm warnings, so it's an upgrade from the blue. I think we'll get some of these further over. It just has to happen with time. I think we'll get some in a lot of the rest of these areas. I don't know about Southern Virginia. We might get more ice-related warnings in this area. And then we have on the back side here, these are like extreme cold, I believe. Let me check. But I believe those are extremely cold. Extreme cold warnings. Oh, they're winter weather advisories. Okay, so it's like a slight tick below the other blues. There's some in here in Alabama because of a warm nose issue. And then, yeah, other areas. Now, some of these scattered counties have nothing to do with this system. But either way, that's the latest and greatest from that. We're going to also look over our WSSI, our Storm Severity Index from the Weather Prediction Center. So this is the latest. And we see a lot of the same in a lot of these areas. You know, a moderate risk going around a lot of our risk area. I mean, it's kind of encompasses almost the whole thing. Even bigger minor risk area around that, and then we have some major blobs in here. These are mainly in this area I'm showing you right now. I mean in here, these are mostly snow, and as we get further south, I think we're gonna have issues with these being for ice. This is almost definitely for ice. We have extremes, and they're more widespread. Yesterday they were more sporadic in here, and these sporadic majors could start to fill in, and those are for ice. You can see this is a good time to mention that you need to know where you are on a map, because I can't mention all of these areas. So pull out your phone, open a maps app. I don't care if it's Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever, and just it'll auto center on yourself, so you don't have to do any work and just zoom out and you can find yourself. Okay, so do that. It's helpful. Move this east a little bit, kind of pick up where the graphics left off. We do have a very obvious secondary area here. We have some extremes. This is mostly in the mountains, though. I do wonder if we might get a little expansion out for some of these ice totals that we're seeing. I'll show you those later. And then we have, you know, a very, very broad minor risk around the entire thing, with a major risk in the majority of the areas that we'll even see snow. I think that we will get at least these moderate impacts up through the Massachusetts area because of the snow that we're looking at in this area, but who knows? Still got a couple more days to figure this one out. So we're going to start off and kind of briefly go through the Euro and GFS, because we're getting out of global model guidance range more into short model guidance range. So here we go. This is the latest Euro from overnight. We don't have the 6Z, so that's okay. Event gets going. This is Friday into the overnight hours. So I know there are many states now that have issued states of emergency, and I know OU in Oklahoma is closed as of noon today, so they'll be closing in a few hours. So they're taking this seriously. We notice how that this snow line is this is the Euro, definitely ticks south in some of these areas. It's even including Little Rock a little bit, but don't focus too much on the details. And then the Euro has kind of locked onto the idea, as well as the GFS and a lot of our other model guidance. I'll show you it here. You might notice that there's like a gap in the middle here. Like, why is there, what's going on here? It's because there's almost two pieces of energy that we have to look at with this. So we we can look at this here, and they kind of phase back together briefly, but like at this frame, back over Texas and Oklahoma, in a lot of areas we have mixed precipitation as well as a lot of snow in areas north of Lubbock and Oklahoma City. And that's because there's a secondary area of energy here. But notice how the line is oriented more like this as opposed to flat. So it's kind of taking on a different tilt. But they phase together nonetheless. Let's get this back in motion here. And, we have an all-out ice storm across a lot of regions. You can see them, Arkansas, along the Mississippi River in the valley, Shreveport, Crockett, Texas, Dallas, Texas is, I don't necessarily want to say you guys will get crippled by ice. We'll look at your totals here soon. And then, very aggressive warm nose. I still don't know if this is quite exactly what we're going to see, but our short range model guidance shows this too. So I think this is a reasonable solution as we're getting into Sunday, into the early morning hours. Very expansive winter storm on our hands. So let's move to the GFS, and what does it have to say? This event gets started a little bit earlier, so it's still within the hours of Friday, technically before midnight. Really gets going here. A lot of the same areas, though. I think we have some good agreement here. And we have a lot more sleet showing up. That shows up in your purple on your screen. Abilene to Dallas, up to Little Rock is sleet as opposed to freezing rain. I think what's actually happening, I'll draw it in pink. We have freezing rain down here. And I think what we're actually seeing is the freezing rain's a little bit more like this, but there's sleet between these two. So I think the GFS has the right idea that there will be sleet, but it's overdoing it. We've been over this before if you've watched videos. And the GFS is very aggressive with a two system type of scenario where it literally stops in some of these areas and then just fills back in very aggressively, but a lot of the same. Up across the Ohio River Valley and Kentucky, and it's just a lot of these areas getting a lot of heavy snow. We'll look at your totals here soon, and it moves on out. So what about some short-range model guidance? This is what everyone kind of wants to see now. So we'll go into it here. Let's get it back centered. So yeah, we get this going. This is getting about midnight tonight. But notice how it's kind of been, sporadic showers, freezing rain showers, and snow showers across this area of Oklahoma and Texas since the morning, kind of. But it really gets going more after the sun goes down and into the overnight hours. There's the HRRR has got two systems the same way, rolls through Arkansas and Missouri, and Little Rock keeps getting closer to the line. We're taking this south, so by later today, you guys might actually be snowing. I don't know. It's hard to tell with that exactly. Memphis is a mix, unfortunately. And we have the secondary system kind of move in. That's the last frame we have. What about the NAM? I think the NAM that it's short range is okay. There's some reasons I don't like the NAM. I'll show you those later. But we have, the NAM's a little bit earlier. We have some snow showers and flurries across, Kansas and Nebraska, as well as some of South Dakota and Oklahoma, way earlier. This is like around lunchtime, and it even starts before now. So I'll look at the radar later, I think, if I have time. And we kind of get this going. It's similar to the GFS. They feed each other. There's a lot of the same microphysics involved. Way too much sleet, not enough freezing rain being modeled here. It does well with the two system idea, but then it moves on out, and I don't really love this. And then what I think has the best shot here is the RRFSA. I think this is very realistic. We get this into the overnight hours tonight, and there's a lot of snow breaking out, heavy snow breaking out across Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas. And it starts to break containment and move east into northern Arkansas, really getting hit with heavy snow. Missouri, southern Missouri getting hit here. A lot of freezing rain and a lot of sleet. I think the RRFSA is doing really, really well with the temperatures of this system here. Move this on. We have more frames. I don't know if it's quite as aggressive with the secondary push of moisture as it should be, or as it will be. It may be onto something. I don't know. But you see a lot of freezing rain moving into the Mississippi River Valley and southern Arkansas, as well as northern Missouri here. So I'm going to very quickly go through these. This is just a sector further south. Um, so areas like Dallas over, mainly just focus on Texas for this. You guys have sporadic. There's the first wave of moisture might get you guys good with sleet and freezing rain, south of the Red River over to Dallas, but I don't really know exactly how heavy this stuff's going to be. We have some very intense, based off of the HRRR, very intense freezing rain showers, and then a secondary push that kind of gets everybody going. So there's the HRRR. This is the latest NAM. See, I don't. There's going to be more freezing rain than this, and more impacts in general. If you guys remember, there are winter storm warnings issued. I mean, way down here. So they would not have issued those for this real sporadic, low impact type of stuff. I think we'll have more than this, but it does do well with the secondary push of moisture existing in general. And we have a lot of rain. I think that the NAM is a little bit warm with this. That's why it shows some more sleet. I think if it's warmer, it shows sleet. It might be the opposite. Please, if you know, correct me in the comments because I need to figure this out. And then we look again at the kind of the king of the models, at least today, in my opinion. And we have two very separate systems here, with Oklahoma and Texas kind of getting a break, but a lot of freezing rain. And areas, notice this is areas that had those extreme impacts listed. And then we move this on, a lot of freezing rain, a very heavy sleet corridor, and some more snow. But I think it could do a little bit better with the amplification of this second wave. Who knows? But we have two really solid hits along northern Mississippi here of freezing rain. This is brutal. And you see a 1,006 millibar low rolling through Mississippi and Alabama. This is gonna get the winds going. This is gonna bring down trees for sure. I don't doubt it at all. So what about areas further east, right? A lot of my viewers are over here. So let's look at this. We have this latest Euro. It really moves this in Saturday at 4 or 5 p.m. So it's a little bit later, a little bit slower, but our model guidance kind of agrees on that somewhat. So let's get into this here. Just a huge freezing rainstorm across all of North Carolina, Tennessee, pretty much all of Arkansas at this point. I think there will be sleet, and let me draw on that for you. If we have purple, yeah, perfect. I think we're gonna have a few different areas. I think we'll have an area of sleet that kind of goes like that. And then I think we'll have a band of sleet that goes like kind of like that, so that all of these areas are sleet as opposed to just freezing rain. I might be wrong, but I think that Euro needs to get some more sleet in here. But we get a pretty aggressive warm nose. I think the Euro is still a little aggressive with this warm nose, but either way, crippling ice storm across the I-85 corridor from Atlanta to Charlotte. Lot of freezing rain back over the Mississippi River down to down to Fort Polk, and then it's getting almost down to the Gulf Coast in some of these runs. Houston is you're not quite there. You're more in a rain, but be thankful for that. Nobody likes freezing rain. We move this on, and the low itself is going up the mountains. There's a 1,004, 1,001 millibar low. It's kind of strengthening here, sitting over Western North Carolina. That is definitely helping to bring warm air in. I don't know if our cold air damming wedge will erode this quickly. That's one thing, a big kind of question with this is, will it end up being kind of more like this, or, in some scenarios even, well, let's do this right. If I'm going to do it at all, let's do it right. Kind of more like this, where we have the cold air damming wedge and the entire thing. So this is all just freezing rain still. I don't know. But models typically underdo the cold air damming wedge and underdo the cold air in them and the depth of it. Whole lot of things they underdo, so it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up more ice from this than even modeled. But I mean, this is very, very heavy freezing rain over like Charlotte to Raleigh, up the I-85 corridor there. Very, very heavy. Anyway, move on from this, okay? Up to areas further north. Just going to briefly, you guys are just mainly a snowstorm, although we do get some mixing in Maryland, and on this run, a lot of, what's it called? One of these times I'm going to get it. Lots of Virginia is just freezing rain. That's not what the National Weather Service is calling for. I wish I had those graphics. I might look for them, but either way, I think the Euros are still a little bit amplified and a little bit too warm, but, a classic Miller B snowstorm just across all of the Northeast here. Just possibly feet of snow in some of these areas. And it moves on out. Briefly look at the GFS. I think the GFS is a little bit better. So we have sleet showing up in purple here. It's getting into the overnight hour Sunday. So when does it move in? About the same time. Again, this is like 4 or 5 p.m. on Saturday, and I think we're starting to agree on that. So we move this on. Lots of freezing rain, lots of sleet. The GFS has a warm nose that I think is kind of aggressive, but it's not as far north. And then it holds on to that cold air damming wedge a little bit longer, which I buy. And, we're getting freezing rain down as far south as Augusta and Myrtle Beach, Atlanta. If you're in Atlanta, don't think that this event is going to pass you by. And if you see a frame like this, and you think, well, not only is the low near us, but it's raining, we'll be all right. The damage is done by this point. It doesn't matter if it does anything after all this freezing rain. Quite honestly, if it snows, as soon as it comes dark and it cools down enough, it's just going to freeze too. So don't be here wishing for rain afterwards. It doesn't matter. And we move this on out. Who knows what this is? It's another possible thing next weekend. This is getting into Saturday. We have another thing to possibly cover. But once this amount of time, we might go over that in another video. Just a brief look up here. And see, this keeps areas of Virginia at least get more snow on the front end. But you do switch to a lot of sleet. Mixing up through the New Jersey, Delaware region. Don't know if that's going to happen or not, and it moves on out. So what about some short... I only have the RRFSA pulled up because I think it's the only one that does well, unfortunately. So we move this in. This is 4 p.m. 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m. So it's pretty similar. We might start off as rain. I don't really buy that. I think it'll be too cold over here for rain. But everything else looks good to me. Now, notice this. In this gap right here, you might be thinking you live in Atlanta down to Augusta up through the Greenville-Spartanburg area. Why is it not doing anything? I thought this was supposed to be like a long duration. It is, but there's going to be breaks in this. You're not just going to get, 24 to 36 straight hours of freezing rain. That would literally destroy infrastructure. We have waves of it, but they're pretty heavy waves. And I think the RRFSA does a good job not eroding that cold air damming wedge. And we move this on. So we look at where our lines are. This does also say that a lot of, what's it called? Virginia. I'll get it one of these times. Virginia and West Virginia, you guys switch pretty quick. You might start off as some heavy snow. So maybe this is why the National Weather Service is calling for so much. Yeah, that could be. You start off as a lot of heavy snow and you mix afterwards. And then this moves on out. You can see areas of the Northeast included here. It's pretty amplified, but I think it's got a pretty good handle on temperatures here. We can kind of see our two different areas of energy here. We have 1 and then 2. The second one obviously has a low associated with it specifically. There's a low with this one somewhere, but either way, that's the latest from our short-range model guidance. So there's that. Now we're going to look at some snow. This is off of the Euro. Through the Central Plains. This is uptrended. Areas Oklahoma City over a foot. But know where you want them out. It's very helpful. Areas, a lot of snow here, but drops off quickly to the south. DFW is not modeled to get anything off the Euro, but you're expected to get maybe an inch or two before this really gets going. What about areas over here? We have, what is this all the way through? Yeah. So we have actually downtrended this a little bit, I think. Let's look at the prior run. Yeah, so we definitely downtrended that a little bit. I don't know why necessarily. The moisture is not really a whole lot different, so I don't know why that is, but still very impressive totals. Up near a foot along the Ohio River, 6 inches plus, all the way up through the Ohio Valley in general into the Northeast, where you're looking at generally over 8 to 10 inches. Highlighted area here of a foot over western Maryland, southern Pennsylvania. But see, on the Euro, even though it mixes a lot, that front end thumping could be very impressive here. We get many inches in some regions. And we move this on to the Northeast a little bit. Yeah, this is just it's a whopper of a snowstorm, Some of these areas have not seen this in a long time, so pull out your snow blowers and snow shovels. It's going to be a big one. Cape Cod getting right on the edge here of very, very high snow. But even if you don't, you're still at 10 to 12 inches. So very impressive. Move to the GFS. Everything's a tick further south. I think this is realistic. It's still along the Red River Valley is kind of where our cutoff is, but down over near Lubbock, it's near a foot. Oklahoma City's near over a foot. Really, it targets northern Arkansas with a lot of snow, and it has done that consistently. Memphis, you might actually get a few to several inches before you switch to freezing rain. It's possible. Move this on to the east a little bit, and then, this is kind of that highlighted regions that take further south. So the Euro, for example, was more like this, and then the GFS is more like this. It's a tick further south. I think the Euro is honestly ticking south, so they might meet in the middle. But we have very impressive. There's 20 inches being modeled in central Kentucky here, and I'm not going to call for that, but you guys might. And then it kind of keeps this area of the heaviest axis of moisture in almost a straight line all the way up through the northeast and then over Cape Cod. So you're getting over a foot, 12 to as much as 16 inches in some regions. Drops off quickly to the south. I do think this is not me wish casting this. This is me knowing from National Weather Service what they're calling for. I think we might get a little extension of very light snowfall ahead of this. And so will these regions, possibly. I think these models might be overdoing the mixing a little bit. Too warm. I think we'll get some snow mixed in. But these also could include some sleet in the southern areas. So, if you're looking down here, that's a terrible color. It's probably the worst color I could have picked, actually. Let's look down in here. We have some higher totals. Some of this could be sleet because the models struggle to know which one is which. So keep that in mind. So move this off to the northeast a little bit. And yeah, this is just really focusing in on you guys. The only state up here in the northeast that doesn't really get all of it is Maine. And you still in areas get over 6 inches. New York is good for a lot in most areas. Vermont, New Hampshire, mostly good. Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. It's a huge snowstorm for you guys. So let's look at some ice graphics. I found these finally. Now, this won't last very long because this site, Aguacero Weather, however you pronounce it, I just got like a notification that for like a day or 2 days, they were going to make all models and their like products free. So I ran over here and pulled this up as soon as possible. So here's the latest ice freezing rain. This is actually, you see how it says Fram up here? I think that might be like freezing rain accumulation metric. That might be what that stands for, but either way, this is more accurate than just looking at the total freezing rain. This is still absolutely crippling in some of these regions. Where you see it kind of turn teal is over an inch, and then where it turns to this, darker purplish color is half an inch or more. So yeah, so you can see our two highlighted regions here. Off the Euro model, southern Arkansas gets absolutely slammed. Dallas gets 7/10. That's more than enough to cause a lot of issues. Up near Memphis, you get 7/10. But yeah, this is a big deal. Although this doesn't line up with the ice storm warnings they have issued exactly, so I wonder if they're not really buying this exact solution. And then over in my neck of the woods, in my area here, 6 to as much as 9/10. It increases as you get up into North Carolina and Virginia. Who knows with that? But if you live in Atlanta, don't think this is over. Augusta down to Columbia, Orangeburg should be on this map. Yeah, right down here. That's kind of the far southern extent, and Fayetteville over to Greenville, Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro. You guys are kind of along with me here, where we just might get a lot. And then we look at the GFS. The GFS is really aggressive with some freezing rain further areas to the south over here. But let's focus to the west first. This kind of tells me, and I think as far as I know, the ice storm warning, I can't pick the right colors here. Let's pick this. I think the ice storm warnings are kind of in here, maybe a little bit narrower, kind of like this. And our freezing rain is kind of displaced from that. We'll go back and check that in a second. But either way, if this is half wrong, guys, let's say down here, that's 1.5. That's 3/4 of an inch of freezing rain is more than enough, especially down here, to just destroy infrastructure in some areas. Destructive ice is what this really is. And then we have Get over here to like Atlanta to Gainesville to Athens, which is a hot spot here of just a lot of. I mean, again, this could be half wrong, and you've got over a half an inch, it's like 6/10 of an inch across areas, up here. I'll show you in a second what they're calling for. But again, if you're down here, Atlanta, Augusta, Columbia, I think, yeah, Macon is close. Don't worry about this like blobbiness. Just Macon, you're close to this on the GFS. Uh, so there's a lot, and here's that mixing getting all the way up through, say, Richmond into the Delmarva, just west of DC. So what about sleet? I've talked about sleet. So we have this product as well. This is the GFS for sleet because I think it does okay with showing sleet. Now, some of these areas where we have this really dark, this is over like 5 inches. I don't think we're going to see that. We could, but we do have a lot of sleet mixing in over here. You guys, I can't pick a good color. Here we go. A lot of sleet mixing in some of these regions that also get a lot of freezing rain. That could cut down on totals. But we have, notice that sleet is also ice in a way. It's not ice that's going to stick to everything, but like for the roads, it's still an absolute mess if you get enough of it. Just east of Dallas, sorry, is a hotspot area, and then west of Richmond is another hotspot area. Don't focus too much on those little details, but a lot of sleet. This could cut down on some totals, and there might be people who end up getting saved by sleet. So that's believable to me. It really is. So ultimately, this might be, yeah, we have some ice graphics to show you. So this is what they're calling for. We're going to move west to east. This is the latest that they're calling for. I mean, I wish that we could find a graphic further to the west. I cannot find it to save my life. Someone could link that in the comments or something. I'd love that because I cannot find it. Could be user error, but I just can't. But anyway, our main highlighted region here in northern Mississippi, northern Louisiana, and southern Arkansas here, they're calling for over an inch now. Tupelo, Grenada, Mississippi at over an inch. Memphis has actually ticked a little down. This lines up with like what the GFS and Euro were showing us here. More the GFS though, with this band being more in central to southern Mississippi. Either way, you see that? That's very dangerous. A quarter inch or more is dangerous, right? And think about it like this. If you got an inch of solid freezing rain, solid ice, then if you got a power line, right, that makes the thing 2 inches in diameter because it adds an inch on every side. So suddenly your power line goes from being like this to like this. And half an inch of freezing rain between two power poles is about 500 pounds. So it's like hanging a 500-pound weight between each pole. There's no chance. That's with half an inch. This is double that and sometimes more. Now I will show you. This is the high end amount. We'll move areas to the east in a second. Just focus over here to the western areas, such as areas Greenville, Mississippi, Clarksdale, Grenada, Tupelo. Again, half wrong, and this is really, really bad. Memphis is on the high end is really, really bad. Now, this is not what they expect to happen. This is a 1 in 10 chance of happening. I would put this at more like a 50% chance of happening based on some of our model guidance. But that's just my personal opinion. This is 1,500 pounds of weight in Grenada on all the power lines and branches. Your infrastructure doesn't stand a chance if this actually happens. I think this is a good graphic, okay? Trust this as of now. This will update, it already has. This was issued today at, a few hours ago, so it's pretty new. So what about areas further to the east? So there's a lot of clutter on the screen here, I know, but just try to find your area and just look at it. Areas in this dark red, kind of burgundy almost color. This is a half an inch or more. In the pink is 3/4 of an inch or more, and then in this dark purple, I said pink. This light purple, 3/4 of an inch, dark purple, an inch. So they're calling for 3/4 of an inch. I just said 3/4 because it's 3/4. Let's fix that. 3 to 4 tenths of an inch in Atlanta. A little bit lighter down to Augusta and then Columbia. So if you live in these southern areas, you might be thinking in Augusta, we can handle 1900ths of an inch. And maybe you can, because that's not quite in that threshold yet. But, a little bit further south, or a little bit, one stray freezing rain shower, and it's not like that. So very much stay prepared, even down to Macon and Statesboro, Charleston, Myrtle Beach. Stay prepared in these areas because I think we might see increases here if our model guidance continues to show it. But this lines up well with our WSSI extreme risk. I think that's why. But in general, let me just circle it here. This is the worst of it. So the Greenville, Spartanburg area, Atlanta, Charlotte hit hard. Mountains especially hit hard. And then up the some areas of the I-95 corridor and the 85 corridor up here as well, but hit pretty hard. So let me show you the high end, right? Because this is what they're calling for. Let me show you the high end. Yeah, this is bad. And unfortunately, I would put this at a higher chance of happening than 1 in 10. I would put this at like, I wouldn't want to say 50% necessarily, but I would say that. To be completely honest with you, I would say that. You know, this kind of a footprint has been modeled a lot. And totals like this have been modeled a lot. So if we end up getting a little bit more moisture in the atmosphere, we're not going to have any issues getting this much here. And then notice, this is why I was saying Atlanta, Macon, Statesboro, Charlotte, Myrtle Beach. Even though you're not a lot, please pay attention to this because this is not necessarily going to leave you alone down here. But Columbia at 1/2 inch nearly, Augusta 4/10, Athens. This is the region on the GFS that was highlighted a little bit. It's not necessarily on here. We might see it, but I don't think so. I think they've got it down pretty good. And then we go back to our frame here to end the video on. So ultimately, we got a few more days here. If you live in the areas that we just talked about in the last 10 to 15 minutes with the ice, please be prepared. It might, if it hasn't sunk in yet, let it. That if you lose power in, say, the I-85 corridor, that's where I live, or up through northern Mississippi, that's another very highlighted area. Let's say you live there, you aren't necessarily going to get power back at any reasonable time because this is such a widespread thing that power crews are going to be stretched thin. But if your roads are that much of a mess, their equipment can't get out. So I need you guys to be prepared for many days without power, as well as absolutely frigid temperatures. I don't have that pulled up, but just very, very cold temperatures after this. You know, Monday night into Tuesday morning, we could have negative temperatures across the areas that saw a lot of sleet and snow as well as ice. I wouldn't be surprised if we go below 0 at my house here. So watch for that. But if you lose power, the internet will be down as well, obviously. So, you know, please ration your phone battery, right? If you have a generator, use it, but use it safely. Don't put it indoors. Don't put it in your garage. Some people are not aware that that will harm you. The carbon monoxide kills many people a year because they do stuff like this. Don't do that. So that's all I have for you. I'll get a video out this evening, but you know, this event across the Central Plains is going to get going soon. I'll end this video. I have to pull it up here on the fly, but I'm going to end this video showing you the precipitation type across a lot of these regions. So let's get in here. There we go. It might take a second. So yeah, this is our current precipitation type. So there's some snow showers. I don't know if all this is hitting the surface in like Kansas, Nebraska, even areas, South Dakota, but nothing really showing up in the majority of these areas yet. Doesn't mean we won't. You know, OU is closed for today, so that tells you something right there. That's literally a Met school, so not to scare anyone, just in general. So yeah, this is a big event, guys. Big time. Please be careful. I'll get a video out this evening, so tune into that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.